Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Lisa Holloway, and I welcome you to the Metaphysical Network for Conscious Living podcast. The Metaphysical Network for Conscious Living helps people seeking community, connection, and spiritual development to feel inspired and empowered by providing enlightening experiences through seminars, workshops, podcasts, fairs, and conferences. Today, I'll be speaking with Leslie Brown, who is the upcoming speaker for our Metaphysical Network presentation at 7 p.m. Tuesday, March 24th at the Unitarian Fellowship Hall in Nanaimo. Leslie is a trauma-informed facilitator and embodiment coach who helps people reconnect deeply with themselves by understanding what it truly means to be human in today's world. Her work bridges grounded nervous system awareness with spirituality, offering practical ways to cultivate balance, freedom, and authentic self-expression in everyday life. Today, we'll be talking about her upcoming presentation, Clear Channel, Clear Gifts, How Nervous System Noise Blocks Our Intuition. In this conversation, Leslie explores why intuitive and energetic abilities can sometimes feel blocked, inconsistent, or overwhelming, and how our nervous system and emotional history play an essential role in shaping the clarity of our inner guidance. Rather than trying to reach further into the unseen, Leslie invites us to begin with something more fundamental, understanding the human vessel through which intuition flows. Leslie, it's wonderful to have you here with us today.
Thanks so much, Lisa. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you. We so look forward to your presentation coming up on the 24th of March. So let's begin. Leslie, many people in the spiritual community talk about intuition or energetic gifts, but your work brings in nervous system awareness and embodiment. What led you to the intersection of spirituality and the human nervous system?
Well, that's a really great question. And I think a lot of people might assume that it was me on a spiritual quest or seeking spirituality. And actually, it was the reverse. The spiritual connection that I really revel in today is something that I, in essence, accidentally cultivated through my own personal growth and evolution work, and more accurately, through my healing work. And so, it was moving through a really challenging time in my life where I actually lost my brother unexpectedly to cancer. And about 3 months later, my marriage ended. And that was really one of those sort of dark nights of the soul, as many people say. And that led me to do the really deep healing work of turning inwards. And I realized how much I didn't understand myself as a human being. I love that phrase of we're all spiritual beings having a human experience. And
Mhm.
it's really become so clear to me over time how little we understand of the human experience. And so the work that I did there led me to this massive spiritual expansion that I just wasn't expecting. And ever since then, the connection has just continued to become clearer and clearer and more powerful. And I continue to see, my clients and the people that I work with experience the same results without even trying.
Yeah, and so somehow that work brought you into a better understanding of the nervous system.
Exactly.
And how did that link take place?
Yeah, well, I started it really specifically. I realized that I had spent a very long time with a nervous system locked in a state of hypervigilance. So much protection running. And as soon as I started to really tune into my nervous system, it's like a light switch flipped. right? Suddenly it was like, oh, so that's what that feeling means, or that's what my stomach's been trying to tell me, or why my heart was beating the way it was beating, right? And I started to really understand that my nervous system is the foundation for my whole experience of life, and certainly for my connection with spirit, right?
Wow, that's very powerful, and it's a wonderful realization that you came to because probably your work with clients um, is enhanced significantly through understanding that their nervous system is that important in their own healing, not just in their intuitive abilities, but their healing. And I think maybe some people don't pay as much attention to their bodies, or they may ignore those signals in the nervous system, which you seem to really have come to understand.
Hmm. I think actually, I think there's a lot of ways in which we're trained from a very young age to ignore our intuition and to ignore what our system and our inner wisdom is trying to tell us, right? And so it becomes a an unlearning or a relearning of something we already knew.
Yes, probably a relearning, right?
Yeah.
As babies, as toddlers, we probably pay a lot of attention to our nervous system. We're continually responding to what our nervous system is telling us when we're that young, most likely, right?
Absolutely.
Maybe we get trained out of that, as you say,
I
and
think so.
we stop trusting ourselves.
Lisa, that's something that I don't think I've ever worked with a single person who hasn't at some point named a lack of trust in themselves, right? Whether it's a trust in their own gifts or their intuition or their discernment or their choices, right? It seems like
Yeah.
trust in ourselves is a really key struggle for so many, and I think that relates back to the fact that we aren't handed an instruction manual. We we don't really understand how this whole integrated system of our nervous system, our physical body, our emotional system, our cognitive system, right? All of these combining to this one being. We can't parse it all out into separate bits and pieces, right? It's all
Yes.
interconnected.
Yeah. I hear you fully on that, 100%. So in your talk title or your talk description,
Mhm.
you mentioned nervous system noise blocking intuition. So, for those who might be new to this idea, what does nervous system noise actually mean, and how does it interfere with our intuitive abilities?
Well, if we think about our intuitive abilities as, let's say, we're tuning into a radio frequency. Nervous system noise is any interference, any static that might block the clear transmission of that message. And so it can look so many different ways, right? Our noise in my nervous system might be stress from work. It might that I don't even know I'm still carrying at home, right? It might be I had a negative interaction with someone in the morning and I'm ruminating about it. It might be feelings that I've been suppressing or repressing for days, weeks, or a lifetime, right? Any of our physical, emotional, mental states, ruminations, concerns, all of these things, they take up space. They create noise. I think about it like white noise, right? And every element of that that's present in my system is creating some sort of barrier between myself and my intuition.
Yeah, I can see that. And that lack of trust can cause us to ignore those
Yes.
signals,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely.
And doubt them,
Yes.
doubt, and in a way, the body is responding to our intuition.
Hmm.
Our
Absolutely.
intuition is telling us something, and it's showing up in our body,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
And so I think that that sort of antenna that you are talking about is so critical.
Hmm.
And in the same way that we don't listen to our intuition, there's also the idea that you're bringing about, which is listening to our body,
Yes.
because it's all one beautiful system, isn't it?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that for many people, when they're seeking to strengthen their connection to their intuition, they're listening for the voice, right? And that's tricky because then we get into the rough waters of having to discern, is it the voice in my head, right? Is it my mind talking to me, or is it my intuition? And this is where we can really lean on the body to give us information we can trust, because our mind, it will lie to us. It doesn't mean to, but that's
Yes.
just a natural result of how we're designed to perceive and receive information, whereas the body doesn't lie, right? And so when we learn to tune into that, we can more quickly, more effectively build that trust in ourselves, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. So many people feel that their intuition comes and goes. Sometimes it feels clear, other times it feels confusing or even overwhelming. They don't know what they can trust. So from your perspective, what is happening in the body when intuition feels inconsistent like that?
Yeah. In short, I would say lots that we're not aware of, right? The idea here is that when I'm really well acquainted with myself and my inner workings, my thoughts, my feelings, and my body, I'm able to be conscious more often. And when I am not familiar with that, then it becomes a little more tricky. And I I think the idea is that we just haven't tuned in to how much is alive in our system, right?
Hmm.
And this is what creates the inconsistency, because any little thing happening, again, as I said earlier, can really impact the clarity of what we're trying to receive. The message is consistent, right? It's me that's inconsistent. And so
Yes,
the
it's the
more
ability to receive or the
exactly.
state of reception that is inconsistent.
Yeah, and yet we're more naturally inclined to turn outwards when something isn't working rather than to come home to ourselves and understand what's present here, right? And that's where we often then compound the issue, because now I'm like, well, it works differently for this person, or that person says I should do this. And at the end of the day, when it comes to tuning into our intuition, we're the expert on our own intuition, right?
Yeah.
Turning inward and becoming more familiar with my own system and how it works and the signals it gives me is always going to be more empowering in terms of being more connected to my gifts.
Yes. I think you've really explained why working with the nervous system is such an important part of developing stable intuitive gifts. So, if someone listening feels that their intuitive abilities are blocked or noisy right now, just listening into this,
Mhm.
what is one simple way that they can begin calming the nervous system so their inner guidance becomes more clear? And I know you're going to give us a lot more of this during the talk, which is wonderful. Can't wait. But if you want to give one little snippet for people to let them know what they could possibly do even now so
Mm.
that their inner guidance becomes clearer.
Yeah, absolutely. I think some of the most common interference or nervous system noise we can be experiencing is actually repressed emotions. And so one exercise that is really helpful is to pick up a pen and paper or a pencil, whatever you prefer, and to to choose an area where you're feeling overwhelmed or uncertain and to allow yourself to write about all the things you're feeling and focusing on the negative feelings because those are the ones we usually don't allow ourselves to feel, right? We
Hmm.
tend to diminish them or delete them completely, right? So, in that particular area, what are you scared of? And write down every thought that comes up. Do your best not to judge it. Just keep writing at every thought that comes to mind. And then what are you sad about? Again, writing every thought that comes up. Sadness in this situation is this, right? And then what are you scared of? Right? By allowing yourself to actually capture all of those feelings, to name them, right? I'm sure many of the people listening right now have heard that phrase, name it to tame it, right? The idea is that when we actually honor whatever we're feeling, right, which is coming from what we're thinking, it calms the system right away. It decreases the intensity and therefore it quiets a lot of that nervous system noise. So, getting an old fashioned pen and paper and dumping our feelings on that paper will absolutely go such a long way in helping us calm some of that noise.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're so welcome.
Yeah. So, if people begin to truly work with the nervous system instead of pushing past it, how might their relationship with intuition and spiritual gifts change over time?
Well, again, I think I'm a great example of this. I mean, I think I've always felt like I was a relatively intuitive person. And yet, as I focus so much on understanding my nervous system and learning how to work with it instead of against it, not only did my intuition strengthen exponentially, my trust in my intuition also became unwavering at this point in my life. And besides that, there were other gifts that started to appear. And, for example, I've been a recreational singer all my life. I used to perform a lot as a kid, whether it was for families or even in competitions. But it was only after really understanding my system that I started to tune into the gift of sound that was present. And now I use my voice with clients in somatic integration sessions where, sound comes up and I can feel the energy present. I feel the whatever message or gift is coming through that vessel of sound. And not only was that inaccessible to me previously, but I wasn't even aware of it. So I think that as people start to tune into their system and understand it better, work with it more conscientiously, not only will their gifts stabilize, but they will enhance. And just my personal overall experience of spiritual connection in my life is, I mean, 100-fold what it was 10 years ago. And so I think if there was a sales pitch for learning about your nervous system, I'd say that's it.
Wow, wonderful. Thank you so much for that. So, Leslie, um, is there anything else you want to say before we complete the podcast? If you had any one thing that you want to let people know, as well as what can they expect on the 24th?
Yeah. Um, I think the one thing I want everyone to know is that our gifts are inherent. We are all connected. We are all spiritual beings. And so, if at any point you're doubting that, know that there's a path forward. And it's not something magical or intangible. It's this beautiful vessel that's been carrying you your whole life. And so, I'm really excited to unpack a little bit more deeply some of the things that we've talked about today. Of course, as an embodiment coach, I really focus on giving people experiences, not just intellectual information. That's not enough for change. We need to feel things in our body. So there will be elements of experiential pieces in the talk, as well as getting an even more thorough understanding of exactly what nervous system noise can look like, and how we can take meaningful steps to clearing that channel so that we can strengthen our gifts.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, Leslie, thank you very, very much for sharing your insight and wisdom with us today. I really appreciate the way you bring together and the way you can explain bringing together spirituality and embodiment in such a grounded and compassionate way. Thank you for sharing your little bit of your story with us. I'm sure it's going to add quite a bit as you talk a bit about your own journey on Tuesday night.
Mhm.
And for our listeners, as I'm sure this conversation resonated with you, I encourage you to join Leslie and the Metaphysical Network for her talk, Clear Channel, Clear Gifts, How Nervous System Noise Blocks Our Intuition, on March 24th at the Unitarian Fellowship Hall, Tuesday, next week, actually. So this is where Leslie will explore these ideas in much greater depth and offer practical tools for working with your nervous system so your intuitive gifts can emerge in a more stable and integrated way. Doors open at 6:30 and the talk starts at 7. So Leslie, before we finish, where can people go to learn more about your work?
Yeah, thank you. My website is lesliebrowncoaching.com, and I'm most active on Instagram as well. Same handle, Leslie Brown Coaching. So I'm always giving tips and insights there as well.
Fabulous. Thank you. So, to everyone listening, thank you for being with us. This is the Metaphysical Network for Conscious Living. We are so thrilled and we're so inspired by our presenters. And Leslie, you gave so much today, and I thank you so much for telling us about your journey and sharing enough that we could get excited about your talk and want to know more.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for having me, and I really look forward to seeing everyone on Tuesday.
Wonderful. So until next time, take good care of yourselves and continue exploring the wisdom that lives within you.